Judge rules DougCo Schools cannot withhold the name of the person who wanted to identify every teacher who protested district leadership. The name is not a surprise. Can an attorney be disbarred for promoting the big lie, an ethics complaint against a Coloradan who worked for President Trump's team trying to overturn the election? Answering your questions about the tax refund that Democrats are trying to hurry through before Election Day. We leave our volunteer firefighters to fend for themselves in terms of funding. Is that a smart strategy, given wildfires these days? And a graduation delayed. More than 50 years later, he's there. A hero gets his moment. On Next. DougCo teachers preparing to protest district leadership were warned on talk radio that they would be identified by name if they walked out. DougCo Schools then tried to keep the public from finding out who it was who tried to get the names of those protesting teachers. So 9 News sued under open records law, and today a judge forced the district to give up the name. It was Michael Kane, law partner of conservative talk radio host Dan Caplis, who called for those teachers to be outed. Kane asked for the teachers' names on the same day Caplis said this on the radio.
So each and every one of those names should be public record. Each and every one of those names should be public record tomorrow. If you truly are sick and you're a teacher in Douglas County, may be the wrong day to be sick, because somebody smart is going to get the names of everybody who's once again abandoning the children. And every parent should know that, and everybody should remember, starting with the politicians who abandoned the children.
Kane said in a written statement sent to 9 News that he withdrew the request for the teachers' names at the request of Douglas County Schools and as a favor to the district. Call it a gift. Call it an election year stunt. Democrats in Colorado are moving up your required tax refund under the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And you have questions about this, lots of questions. Calls for a creative mind to explain a complex topic that really matters, because it's money in your pocket and it's money that funds the state. Here's politics guy Marshall Zellinger.
We heard from people like Bill, who wanted to know how those with no tax return are supposed to get their TABOR refund check in the mail. How is the state getting the word out to low-income and no-income residents? We went to Department of Revenue Executive Director Mark Ferrandino.
One of the ways we get words out is by doing things like this, to do interviews, to get it out to the press. We are also making sure through, whether it's CPA, nonprofits, or others, to remind people to file.
TABOR refunds do not normally come as a check in the mail. So will this early bonus be a yearly event?
We're just moving it up several, 6 to 9 months because, as Governor Polo said, why are we holding on to money that is owed to you? Let's get this back out. Right now the bill is one time, but we're committed to having the conversation of, does this make sense moving forward, or are there other changes within the refund mechanism that would make sense?
All refunds are physical checks, no electronic deposit option. Reasons I was told include speed and fraud protection. What are the costs to send checks to more than 3 million taxpayers?
It's a roughly $3 million total to send out over $1.5 billion in checks to the people of Colorado.
Back to the beginning. TABOR refunds sent as checks directly to taxpayers months early. Convince me this is not for votes in November.
This is really simple. This is money that is owed back to the people of Colorado. Why, as a state, should we just continue to what we've done in the past and hold on to it till the end of the next fiscal year, 8 to 9 months later, when we know how much is there? In some years, we don't know. Maybe there's a TABOR refund, maybe there's not. This year, it's very clear we're going to have a significant TABOR refund. Why should we sit on that money and not have it in your hands?
Some changes to the rollout already. You now have until June 30th to file your taxes and get the check that we're all supposed to get by late August or mid-September. Previously it was May, but now it's the end of June. $400 for single filers, $800 for couples. And if you file an extension, your taxes are due in mid-October, and you'd get the check sometime early 2023.
Inevitably, somebody's not going to get the check or think they haven't gotten it fast enough, and they're going to want to know what to do about it.
Just one somebody. No,
yeah.
We've seen this with the unemployment insurance issue. You're going to have a lot of people calling in saying, I need help. There's going to be a hotline.
Yeah.
I asked, is it going to get answered? They hope to have enough staff to answer the questions from people who say, I didn't get the check that I was supposed to get.
This is why I love you, because the state's like, we'll have a hotline and you know to ask, but will it be answered? We learned that with unemployment. Marshall, thank you. The city of Denver is considering whether to charge an extra fee for trash pickup to encourage people to use what would then be free weekly recycling and compost. The city says it has heard from customers who would like expanded recycling. So right now, Denver picks up recycling every 2 weeks. But for years now, people have been saying, well, we could recycle more if you'd pick it up every week. The city currently charges for compost as well, which obviously discourages people from doing that. The city is thinking that if it provides recycling and composting every week for no charge, it can meet its goals of reducing landfill waste and addressing climate change. To cover the cost of that, though, the city's proposing a trash pickup fee based on the size of the trash bin. So there's 3 of them. It's $9 for the small, $13 for the medium, $21 for the large trash cart. The city says that there would be rebates for low-income residents. For all the talk about how green Colorado is, Denver's recycling rate is garbage, 26%, well below the national recycling average of 34%. The former Loveland police officer who broke the arm of a woman with dementia while arresting her for shoplifting is going to go to prison for it. Judge sentenced Austin Hopp to 5 years for second-degree assault. He pleaded guilty back in March. In April of last year, an attorney released footage of Hopp's arrest of Karen Gardner in 2020. You see Gardner shoved to the ground and injured, her arm broken, shoulder dislocated, her wrist sprained. Gardner, who has dementia, was suspected of shoplifting $14 worth of stuff from a Walmart. A second former officer involved in that arrest, Daria Jalali, is going to be in court next month. Volunteer firefighters have been watching state legislators very carefully this year, because when the call comes for the firefighters, they pack up and race to the front lines of the largest fires no matter where in Colorado. But when those volunteer firefighters have called on legislators for help, that call often goes unanswered. Here's Anusha Roy.
The need is dire.
Okay, am I going to buy this guy a new set of gear this year and keep him in good, compliant, good condition gear? Or do I go fix a truck?
When Hugo's volunteer fire chief saw the number of proposed wildfire bills moving through the Capitol, he thought,
we're finally being heard.
The proposed bills cover everything from funding more airborne firefighting resources, investigating the cause of fire so there's data to prevent them in the future, matching local governments when they set aside money for fire mitigation, and allocating millions for gear, training, and recruitment, which would especially help volunteer firefighters who make up a majority of firefighters in the state.
Volunteer firefighters shouldn't have to have a bake sale to get their new fire gear. That's just not okay.
Firefighters talked to Democratic Representative Lisa Cutter about a long list of issues.
Fending fires in their neighborhoods sometimes lose their own homes. They don't have the proper equipment. They don't get reimbursed for expenses when they're taking time away from work.
We're in such a dire need.
Many times it's left to individual fire departments to fundraise or rely on local tax dollars while responding across the state.
We had a several thousand-acre fire out here just 2 weeks ago.
And fighting fires closer to home that many of us never heard about.
No, we never named it. We were too busy.
Chief Soul says it's when the record-breaking fires moved in on the Front Range that momentum changed at the Capitol.
Right in the population centers.
The interim committee I mentioned last summer, we really started, thinking, wow, we need to step this up.
So is this the state changing the way they look at local fire departments and volunteers?
I think so, and I certainly hope so.
And treating them more like state assets.
Trying to set up some more secure ongoing funding for them, definitely.
Probably the biggest year I've ever seen. The fire has taken a forefront with legislators.
So one of the bills that did pass is the one that is setting aside money that especially is helping the volunteer firefighters. There are at least a half a dozen other ones that are still under consideration. With just under a week left in this session, there's a lot of people, Kyle, who are very anxiously waiting to find out what happens.
But you're saying there's a shift in the state's strategy here.
Yeah, definitely, because what the firefighters were saying is right now, when there's a massive fire, the state basically shows up with a checkbook or a disaster declaration. They start paying for things. Now the state is trying to spend that money a lot earlier in the process, whether it's mitigation or propping up our volunteer firefighters so that they can contain these fires a lot more quickly, which then helps save millions of dollars, saves properties, and keeps these fires smaller.
All right. Anusha, thank you very much. A new ethics complaint has been filed against the attorney from Colorado who worked with former President Trump to try and overturn the results of the election. The state's United Democracy Center, which describes itself as a nonpartisan organization for secure elections, filed the complaint against Jenna Ellis yesterday. Ellis, in one of her appearances on Next here, went from an obscure professor job at a Christian university in Colorado to being President Trump's attorney as he was promoting the big lie that the election was stolen. This ethics complaint requests that the Colorado Supreme Court's Office of Attorney Regulation open an investigation into what Ellis did to convince Vice President Pence not to certify the election. The complaint notes that Ellis attempted to discredit the election results. It asks for an investigation, and if the findings are sustained, for substantial discipline. That could be a censure, that could be suspension, or it could be full disbarment, as in Ellis can no longer practice law here. We asked our 9 News legal analyst Whitney Traylor about it, and he said that violations that happen in court as opposed to out of court tend to carry the more severe sanctions. But that might not help Ellis.
There is a difference between being in court and out of court. Because certainly in court, when you're signing a pleading, when you're stating something before the judge, yeah, you're not under oath as a witness, but you're certainly an officer of the court expected to tell the truth. When you're outside in your everyday life, that's different. But here she was essentially acting in the capacity of as a Trump attorney, purporting herself to represent, the president. Then that is going to increase her culpability because she's representing to the public.
Ellis has also been subpoenaed by the House committee that's investigating the January 6th insurrection. While his college class was enjoying commencement, he was being deployed to Vietnam. His mom always wanted him to experience a day like today. Well, he got it.
This is something that, as a community, as African Americans, we need to be and should be very proud of.
Norm Early made Colorado history. We reflect on his life and legacy next. A bill addressing Colorado's fentanyl epidemic has been one of the most hotly debated at the state legislature this year. And there's a big win today for prosecutors and law enforcement. It's a big loss for public health experts. The state Senate approved an amendment that makes possessing more than a gram of any substance that contains some fentanyl a felony. That's regardless of whether or not the person knew that they had fentanyl or not. So if somebody has a pill or powder, a gram or more of it, and any bit of it turns out to be fentanyl, that's felony. 2 Democrats voted in favor of that amendment along with Republicans, so the language is now in the bill. If it makes it into the final version of the bill, that is a significant victory for law enforcement. They had argued that requiring them to prove that somebody knew they had fentanyl made it impossible to prosecute. Norm Early's colleagues and contemporaries looked at him with admiration and pride. Many Coloradans did. Colorado's only elected black district attorney died after a long illness. Early grew up in Washington, D.C., came to Denver after he earned his law degree and was admitted to the bar in 1970. He joined the DA's office in '73 and was appointed district attorney by Governor Dick Lamb in 1983. Norm Early would eventually be reelected 3 times. He was a leading advocate for victims' rights. He was a strong role model for other black Coloradans.
I just think that people need to have that history to see where we were and what we've become, and that he basically created a landscape for others to follow in terms of being in an elected office and having that integrity and having that institutional type of commitment to everyone. I mean, Norm treated everyone the same.
Norm Early also ran for Denver mayor in 1991, lost to Wellington Webb. He was reelected as DA the next year. He stepped down in 1993 to go into private practice. Norm Early was 76 years old.
A beautiful
beautiful spring day in Colorado. Lots of sunshine with temperatures in the 60s today. We go warmer tomorrow and warmer as we head into Mother's Day. How about 70s this afternoon in southeastern Colorado? We're headed for 80s over the next couple of days with a blocking ridge of high pressure that will keep this next storm system north of our region. So we'll see a few high clouds coming in tonight and tomorrow morning. Then we go mostly sunny tomorrow afternoon. Winds increase out of the southwest, but that will serve to warm our temperatures. 80 degrees on Friday, mid-80s Saturday, mid-70s for Mother's Day. A stray foothill shower possible, and then a mild, dry weather pattern shaping up for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week.
He planned to be sitting inside Folsom Field with his classmates more than 5 decades ago.
I think I'm everybody's senior by at least 50 years.
A super senior who put serving his country ahead of celebrating graduation. Today, he got the recognition he deserved. Next. College graduations have not exactly been normal the past couple of years. They also weren't normal in 1968. A graduate from that era came to today's commencement at CU for some long overdue honors. Our Brian Wendland was there.
For most, commencement is the culmination of a college career. It's a time to celebrate your achievements and recognize the sacrifice of those who helped you get here.
Commencement is a significant ritual in the human experience.
For Frank Webb, CU Boulder's 2022 commencement was the chance to cross off a bucket list opportunity he should have experienced 5 decades ago.
So I got a letter in the mail from Uncle Sam.
He was drafted for service in the Vietnam War in 1968, the year he should have graduated from Colorado.
It wasn't so much of a surprise, but I was scared, and I think everybody that was inducted with me was also scared.
Frank made it through the war, got married, and had a family, but something always nagged him in the back of his mind.
I did not attend commencement, and it bugged me for a long time. And I know it bugged my mom.
His mother, who passed away in 2011, got to attend commencement for all of her children except Frank.
She supported me and was always on my side all the way through elementary school, high school, and even through college. The one thing that I did not expect today was to hear my name announced in front of 20,000, however many people are attending today.
So Frank said, I'm going to come and join the class of 2022, and he's here today.
Honestly, I've never been so stunned in all my life.
54 years later, Frank Webb got to celebrate his college career, his military service, and honor the person who he says made everything possible for him.
Wherever the heck my mom is, I hope she's aware of this.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
Frank said that the standing ovation meant so much to him because the reception that he got coming home from war was not good. He told us he was so happy to see how much young Coloradans appreciated his service. You will get the last word when we return. Feedback that came in tonight via the Hey Next hashtag on Twitter. Turing says, so if somebody's got a bag of sugar and more than a gram of it, they run a test, there's fentanyl in it, that could be a felony. Well, they aren't going to be testing sugar, but yes, that is the basic idea. If somebody has what they think is something else, sleeping pill, cocaine, something like that, and it has a trace amount of fentanyl, and there's more than a gram in the larger dosage, as the bill stands now, that